Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah here. I had some technical difficulties this morning. I'm not sure if it's just due to a general slowdown of the web because everybody's using it or what, but I was having some trouble getting the stream working, but now it does seem to be working. So we're going to pick up on the very bottom of Nun Beis Amid Aleph. We're in Siman Taf Nun Hey, and we are finishing up Sif Beis. So the Mechaber had told us in Sif Beis that there are those that say you could use the water from a cistern because that doesn't have heat in it, because basically that is mayim shalanu. It's mayim that was contained in a cistern, which is a keli, so it already has a din of mayim shalanu. But the Mechaber had said on the very bottom line, ve'ein lahakal b'davar, you should not be lenient with this matter, so you should not use the water from the cistern without having it rest overnight. And loy b'shas hatchak. And now we take a look in the Mishnah Berurah all the way in the bottom. Ois katan chav ches. The Mishnah Berurah says hatchak shalanu b'seich beisai. If you do have mayim shalanu that's in your house, if you have water that was already drawn, and it is mayim shalanu, tov yoser sheyikach oisam, it would be better that you should use that mayim shalanu rather than the water drawn from the cistern. Even if you're worried that the water, the mayim shalanu that you have, was drawn early during the day, or maybe it was drawn already after ben hashmashos, it was drawn after the night already started before chatzos. If you remember, we said that really the proper time for drawing the mayim shalanu is by ben hashmashos. I said it's like 10 minutes after shkia we do it. We said b'di'evet, you could draw the mayim shalanu earlier during the day and then let it sit overnight, or b'di'evet, you could draw the mayim shalanu even later at night as long as it was drawn before chatzos. Now the Mishnah Berurah is telling us if you have a choice between mayim shalanu that was drawn earlier during the day, or it was drawn later at night, or water from a cistern, better you should use this water, the mayim shalanu. Mei gishamim sheniklatu min ha'avir. If you have rainwater that you chapped from the air, the rain was coming down, and now you collected it. You collected this rainwater from the air. Ein tzrichem lina. That does not need lina. It doesn't have to rest overnight. Why? Shekvar niskararu ba'avir derech yiridasam. Because we say that rainwater cools off in the air as it's on the way down. It cools down. Miu, however, if you're not using it immediately to knead the dough for the matzahs, you have to be careful where you're going to store this collected rainwater. We said earlier that you're supposed to store the water in a martef, in a cool cellar, or it has to be covered. We don't want it, so if you collected this rainwater, don't leave it out somewhere where it's going to be struck by the sun and where it's going to get warmed, where the coolness is going to leave it. Now we go to the very top of Nun Beis Amid Beis. The Mechaber continues in Sif Gimel. Ein lalosh b'mayim chamen. You cannot knead matzah dough using heated water. Afilu loinas chamamu ela b'chama. Even if it was not heated over a fire, even if it's something that only was heated by virtue of the sun, you cannot use that to knead your matzah dough. V'loi b'mayim agrufim midud gadol. This is a very long sentence over here. V'loi b'mayim hagrufim, not with water that was drained, midud gadol, from a large tank, a large holding tank of some kind. Shenechoshtoi ava, that was where the bottom of this tank, or not really a tank, it's probably more likely like a pot, where the bottom of it was a very thick copper. V'taloi al makayma eish, and it typically would hang over the fire. Umayim shebesaychai feishrim, and the water that's inside this pot is warm. Afilu kishaina eish tachtav, even if the fire is not beneath it. So what's at work over here? Basically, they had some kind of copper vessel, and it doesn't really matter if it was made out of copper or it was made out of something else, but typically this was made out of copper. They had some kind of large pot that they would hang over a fire, and they would maintain hot water inside that pot. What the Mechaber is telling you is you cannot use water from that pot. Now, Forget water that was heated up in that pot. That you certainly can't use. But let's say the pot was hanging over the fire, and now you took the pot off the fire. So the pot's not even on the fire anymore. And now you put water inside that pot. You still can't use that water. Now, that water was never over the fire, but you can't use that water either to knead the dough for matzah. Why? Because the problem is that this pot retains heat for a long time. In the scenario that the Mechaber cites, he says, Shenechoshtoi ava, the floor of this pot was made out of a thick copper. And we know that copper retains heat. So you have this keli that was always sitting over the fire. Now, even if you take it off the fire, we're afraid that any water that you put into it is going to pick up some of the residual heat from the pot, and therefore you cannot use that water to knead the matzah. Let's take a look at the Mishnah Berurah. Ois Katan Chavtes. The Mechaber said you cannot knead dough b'mayim chamin, with heated water. Says the Mishnah Berurah, afilu nasu foishrin ukidl kamei. Even if this water is only made to be poishrin, it's not made to be hot. We don't make the water hot, we just make it warm. Va'afim nitztanenu legamri yesh oisrim lolush bahem. Some say that even if you have water that was heated and it's no longer even warm, it cooled down completely. So I don't know, you had a chaynik, you boiled up water in, and now you took it off the fire and it's sitting there and it's already completely cooled down. You touch it, it's completely cooled down. There are those that aser to use this water that had been heated even after it cools down completely. Since the water was at one point heated, you could no longer use it to knead your matzah dough. However, there are those who disagree with this psak and say that you could use heat water that had at one point been heated. The Chavetz Chaim says you could be samech on this opinion in the Shas Atchak, or in a case of significant financial loss. Let's say you had a scenario where you already needed the dough and you made a lot of matzahs, and now you realize, oh, wait a second, that water that I took from that keli, that was water that had at one point been heated. Now I'm going to have to throw out all that matzah. That would be a significant financial loss. You don't have to do that. B'shas atchak, or a significant financial loss, you could use it. Okay, so far we were talking about here, we were going back on the Mechaber, where the Mechaber said, Ein lolosh b'mayim chamin. You can't knead the matzah dough with water that had at one point been heated. Now we go to Ois Katan Lamed, where the Mishnah Berurah is going on the Mechaber talking about this copper pot that had been hanging over the fire. Midud gadol. So you have this water that was drained from this pot that was hanging over the fire. Even if this water that you want to use now to knead your dough was never actually heated up in this dud gadol. So we're not talking about where the dud gadol was hanging over the fire. This water was heated in it, and now it cooled down. That's already the previous halacha. We can't use water that was at one point heated. Over here we're talking about even if the water that's in the pot now was never heated up. This water was never heated up in this tank. Why? So if it was never heated up, why can't you use it? Says the Mishnah Berurah, because the nature of this pot, since this pot is always hanging over the fire, its nature is to retain its heat. And whatever water you pour into that tank ends up getting warmed. Basically, what he's saying is, since this is some kind of a metal vessel that always stays over the fire, it retains heat for a long time. And now, even if you pour fresh water into it when it's not on the fire, we're afraid it's going to absorb some of that residual heat, and it's going to become a problem. Ois Katan Lamed Aleph, the Mishnah Berurah says, Shenechoshtoi ava. The copper bottom of this pot was very thick. Says the Chavetz Chaim, Hainu sha'ashulayim shaloi aveh. The floor of this pot was thick, of heavy metal. Vein chiluk bein choshes lecheres. But he points out that it really doesn't matter if we're talking about copper or we're talking about earthenware. The bottom line is that this kind of pot that was hung over the fire for hot water always had a very thick floor. So whatever material it was made out of, it retained heat. And the Mechaber had said that the mayim b'seichai feishrim, the water that's put into this tank or pot, becomes warm. Says the Mishnah Berurah cut lamed beis. The hainu kechamimus haroik. He's reminding us when we talk about mayim feishrim, when we talk about warm water, what kind of temperature are we speaking of? Like the warmth of saliva. Or similar to the temperature of water that you draw from the river during the summer. Okay, now before we go back up to the Mechaber, I want to take a look at the Berurah halacha here. The Berurah halacha in Seif Gimel, in Dibur HaMaschel Midud Gadol, the water that you drained from this big pot, Midud Gadol. Ayin Mishnah Berurah Hatam. He says, take a look at the Mishnah Berurah where I told you what the reason for this is. The reason is because we're afraid that the water that's in this pot is going to absorb some of the residual heat. V'ayin Prima Gadim, the Prima Gadim says, Shazehu Shayach Dafka Shahamulyar Adayin Paishar Tzas. This is only true if that pot, which was called a mulyar, that's this dud gadol, it's only true if this pot still has some warmth to it. Shahu Atak Me'esh Samach Zman Ma. It was taken off of the fire in recent time. So if you had this hanging over the fire and you took it off the fire an hour ago, so now maybe we could still worry that there's some residual heat that's going to transfer to the water. Haniskaras man rav, but if you took this pot off the fire 3 days ago, pshita she lachush. So now you're going to tell me that because I poured water into this mulyar that used to be hanging over the fire, I took it off the fire 3 days ago, you're going to tell me if I pour water into it now, it's going to be problematic because it's going to take heat from it? No, there is no heat. So it's an important Mishnah Berurah. It just qualifies what we've been saying. We only have to worry about the residual heat of the keli if the keli was on the fire recently and there is actually some residual heat. The next Berurah halacha says, Umayim shebesaychai feishrin. The water that you pour into this mulyar becomes warmed. Again, the Chavetz Chaim says, if the water is completely 100% cooled down, it's not a problem. Even according to those opinions that say that when you have water that at one point was heated up by a fire, you're not allowed to use it. Two very different halachas. The machmirim on water that had once been heated, over there they say if you had water that at one point was heated up by a fire, even if it cools down completely, you can't use it. But that's water that at one point was heated. This water from the dud gadol was never heated. Over here we're talking about water that you poured into a dud gadol that had residual heat from a fire. Over there, the Berurah halacha says if it cools down completely, it's not a problem. You could use it. Okay, now we go weiter in the Mechaber. By me, it's the beginning of the third line. The Mechaber says, V'em avar v'losh, if you transgressed this prohibition and you did need your matzah dough, bein be'elu, whether you were using water like we've just discussed over here, water that had at one point been heated, or water that was drained from this dud gadol, bein b'mayim shalolanu, or you drew water from a well or from a stream or from a river, but you neglected to make it mayim shalanu before you used it, so you needed your matzah dough not with mayim shalanu. Also, it is prohibited. You're not allowed to use this matzah. Says the Mishnah Berurah cut lamed gimel. Also, what does this mean that it's prohibited? Hainu ba'achila. You're not allowed to eat this matzah on Pesach. Aval b'hana mutar afilu losh b'chamin. But as far as the iser hana of chametz, you would be allowed to derive benefit from this matzah on Pesach. There would be no iser hana. Says the Mechaber weiter. So this was one opinion. One opinion is if you use mayim that wasn't lun, or you use water that had been heated, it's also. V'yesh cholkin. However, there is another opinion. This is the Torah citing Rashi. V'yesh cholkin. There is a dissenting opinion. Umatirin balosh b'mayim shaloi lanu. Who's matir if you used water that was drawn from a well or from a spring and it wasn't mayim shalanu, that they're matir. The Yeshayimrim, and some say the B'shoigig mutter. It depends whether you did this intentionally or you did it by mistake. There is an opinion, the b'shoigeg mutter. As long as you did it inadvertently, you didn't do it on purpose, you used this water inadvertently, then it's mutter. And in present circumstances, we can follow this opinion. Hagar, the Ramah says, even if it's not a shasat chak, yesh lahatir im avar b'shoigeg v'losh b'mayim shaloi lanu. The Ramah says, if somebody did this b'shoigeg, if somebody inadvertently used water that wasn't mayim shalanu, then the Ramah says it doesn't have to be a shasat chak. As long as it was inadvertent, you could use it. The only time we're going to answer it is if somebody did it intentionally. If somebody intentionally used mayim shaloi lanu for his matzahs, then we're going to penalize him and not allow him to use it. Let's see the Mishnah. Berurah says the Mishnah Berurah, Ice Cut and Lamadalit. The b'shoigeg mutter. So you have this yesh oimrim, the Mechaber said that if you did this b'shoigeg inadvertently, it's mutter. So the Mishnah Berurah says, Akol hani dechashav b'zeh hasifkoi. This opinion that says that if you did it b'shoigeg, it's mutter, is going back on all of the cases that we mentioned in this sif. We're talking about you used water that had at one point been heated, or you used water that you drained for the dud gadol, or you used water from a river, or from a spring, or from a well that you didn't make mayim shalanu. In all of those cases, this Yesh Aimrim says that b'shasat chak it's okay. Kaven de a nicker by Siman chimutz, as long as you look at the dough and you don't see any of the signs of chimutz in the dough, it's okay. Loi konsu b'shoigeg. Since you did this b'shoigeg, we're not going to penalize you. Okay, and on that, ubishasat chak, the Mechaber said according to this opinion, it would be okay. Ubishasat chak, ritzoyne loymar, to b'diavad, and losh b'shoigeg, b'chol elu, ve'en lo yisach eres, in the case of a b'diavad, where you already used this water, and you did it inadvertently, and you don't have any other dough to use for matzah, we could rely on this to be matter the dough. And it's based on this that we have the Ramah's statement, the of the b'mayim shalalonu, that in the case of somebody who used mayim that wasn't lon, afilu b'loy chak, even if it's not a shasat chak, yesh lahatir im losh b'shoigeg, you could use the matzah if he did this b'shoigeg, mishum diyesh batir and b'diyevad afilu b'losh b'ememezit v'chanal. Since we have a yesh oimrim, we have this yesh cholkim in the Mechaber. The Mechaber said, "V'yesh cholkim umatirin b'losh b'mayim shalalanu." The Mechaber said you have an opinion that says that even if somebody was over on this prohibition and he purposely used mayim shalalanu, still you could use it. That was the opinion of the yesh cholkim. So based on that, the Ramah says if you used mayim that wasn't lon b'shoigeg, then certainly you could use it b'diavad where you don't have anything else. Lamed Vav. Im avar kasvach, right? Only if this was already done. But to go use mayim that wasn't lun, even if you don't have other water, you shouldn't do it. You want to matzah eat, you'll have to eat something else. But don't say that, oh, this is a b'diavad. This is a b'diavad. I don't have any other matzah to eat. So I have this mayim that wasn't long, I'll use it. No. The b'diavad over here is that you already made the matzah. That's called the b'diavad. Amnam b'layla rishayna kadei shelo yavatal mitzvah say daraisa yesh lahakel lolush behem. As far as the matzah shel mitzvah, over there we'll tell you, okay, go ahead, use the mayim that wasn't long, make the matzah out of the mayim that wasn't long, so you should be yotze the mitzvah. But the rest of Pesach, don't eat that matzah. Okay. Ice cotton lamed zayin. B'shagig v'lashu mekamakam ein likach leisam lotzei sidei chavetz matzah laila rishayna el yishtada lahasig matzah sacheros. If you have this situation where the matzah that you have was made out of this mayim shaloi lanu, so he says, l'chatchila, go ahead and try to find other matzahs to use for the matzah shel mitzvah. See if your neighbor has some matzahs that you could borrow. Okay, Sif Dalet on the bottom of Nun Beis Amid Beis says the Mechaber, Mayim Shaloi Lanu. If you have mayim that wasn't lun, Shenispatlu Chad Betrei B'Mayim Shalanu, that became bottle in mayim shalanu. And like the Mishnah Berurah is going to say, this wording of the Mechaber Chad Betrei, that it was bottle 1 and 2, is not precise. It just means that it was bottle in a simple majority. It was bottle beroiv. So if you have mayim that wasn't lan, and it became bottle in a majority of mayim shalanu, loshin behem, you could use this water to knead your matzah dough. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cotton lam ches on Nun Gimel Amud Aleph. Chad betray lav davka. The mechaber is not really precise here. Betray. It doesn't mean that it has to be bottle in double. It doesn't have to be 1 in 2. Ela beruba. It just has to be a straight majority. 51. You have 51% of mayim shalanu against 49% of mayim shaloilon. V'atam, and the reason this is okay is because Kevin the rubite tzainen miskarer. Since the majority of the water is cold water, the majority of the water is mayim shalanu, we're going to say that this water has a din of cold water, and we don't have to worry that it's going to warm up the dough and make it chametz. The kasva achronim da'afal lechatchila yachal arev im raya shalayasbek mayim shalanu. Even lechatchila, let's say you're getting ready to make your matzah, and you realize you take out your mayim shalanu, and you realize you don't have enough mayim shalanu to make the quantity of matzah you need to make. So the achronim say that even lechatchila, you could go ahead now, and you could add a minority portion of mayim that wasn't lun to the mayim shalanu, so that you should have enough water. And you can do that lechatchila. You add it in, and it's bottled to the mayim shalanu. It's considered cold water, and now you could use it. Oiskan lamites, loshin behem, you could use this for your kneading. V'dafke im nis arev amayim kaidam alishav in his batlu. The only time you could use this mixture of mayim shalanu and mayim shaloilanu is if the waters got mixed together before you kneaded the dough. Avalitein be'isa chad betrei b'mayim shalanu aser. But let's say you want to go ahead and you want to say, okay, this is the mayim shalanu that I have. It's not really enough water. And here's the mayim shaloilon that I have. So, all right, I'll pour in the mayim that wasn't lun, and then I'll add mayim shalanu, and it'll become a majority of mayim shalanu. That you can't do. Avalitein be'isa chad betrei b'mayim shalanu aser. Va'afilu b'diavad le'yesh la'ayin im iriv b'mezid. If you did this b'mezid, even b'diavad, if you did it already, you have to be ma'ayin and see if this is okay. So he says, it only works when the mixture of the water was already bottled before you set out to make your matzah. But if you have your kneading trough in front of me, and they pour in the kemach, and you have the kemach sitting over there, and now you want to pour in mayim shalanu and mayim shaloilanu, that you can't do. Okay, we're going to stop over here for now. Oh, no, you know what? No, let's not stop. Let's go a little bit further. Let's do Seif. I'm just going to throw out now, I'm working on using Zoom for the shiur. If we use Zoom, then I could see you, you could see me, and then we could interact. So I think that would be better for everybody. Let me know what your thoughts are. I'm not technologically savvy, but I have a brother who would help me out with this. But I see that a lot of shiurim are doing Zoom. Even my wife is working with Zoom. And I see that it allows everybody to see each other, and it allows interaction between everybody. You could ask me questions. At least we can say hello to each other. So we don't have to be totally cut off the way we are now, even though I see that there are 3 people listening here. So I'm going to give a shout out. I'm assuming that I'm speaking to Moshe Zweig and to Willie and to Shimon. That's what I'm assuming. If Shlomo Zalman is there, Matov Manoim, or anybody else, whoever it is, whoever's listening is listening. But hello, everybody. I'd love to get this onto Zoom so that we can interact. Let's go to Seif. If you have any thoughts on it, let me know. Nun Gimel Amud Aleph, Seif. Says the Mechaber. Our custom is not to add any salt to the matzah. I always say it. We pay $27 a pound for something that's got 2 ingredients, flour and water. It doesn't even have a little salt. So Nehagin Shaloilita, and that schus should stand for Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael needs a lot of schusim right now. The schus of Klal Yisrael, that they're willing to spend $27 on matzah l'tzarech mitzvah, should be a big schus for us. Nehagin Shaloilita melach b'matzah. Our custom is not to add any salt to the matzah v'nachin adavar, and this is proper. Va'afilu b'diavad yesh lesar, and the Ramah says even b'diavad, if you have matzah that salt was added to, we should not use it. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cut mem. There are those that say that salt has a warming effect on the dough. Let's place it 1 second. Yeah. And the salt actually has the effect of speeding up the chimutz process. So if you're going to add salt, maybe the chimutz is going to happen faster. Maybe you don't have 18 minutes. So the minig is not to add salt to the matzah. Mem aleph b'matzah hainu kaidam afiyah. The Chavetz Chaim points out when we say that the minig is not to put any salt in the matzah, he means before you bake the matzah. When you have matzah on your table on Pesach, you want to take a salt shaker, put salt on it, certainly you could do that. Aval achar afiyah vadai shari liktaif penei matzah. He's telling you now you could even smear the face of the baked matzah b'mei hamelach with salt water, ulahachziron lataner, and to put it back into the oven. Apparently, this is a way that they made the matzah tasty in Chol Hamoed. They would take some salty water and rub some salt water on top of the matzah and put it in the oven and make it nice and fresh and crispy and salty. However, the Chavetz Chaim says we should not do this for the matzah shel mitzvah by the Seder. Why is that? So looking into it, it seems that the problem over here is this would be ke'ein matzah ashira. We know that our matzah, for us to be yotze in the mitzvah, has to be lechem eini. It has to be poor bread. So we know that you're not allowed to knead the matzah with honey or with anything that's going to make it sweet. No cake. This has got to be lechem eini. It's poor man's bread. And if you're going to add salt to it, so that already you're adding flavorings. That the Paiskim says ke'ein matzah ashira. It's similar to matzah ashira, and therefore we don't do it. Ois cotton mem beis afilu b'diavad. The Ramah said even b'diavad we should not do this. V'ayin b'achronim she'eskimu de'emnosam b'ma'at melach. If you put in a very small amount of salt, v'afa isa miyad, and you baked it right away. What does this mean, baked it right away? Says the Mishnah Berurah, Dahainu loy kishar matzos, not like we do with the rest of the matzahs. The kaimalon bahu, where we hold, shaha esek sha'oiskin ba biyadayim, einoy menichem lahachmetz. With our matzah, we always take the position that as long as the dough is being worked, it cannot become a chametz. So therefore, as much as we try to hurry the process, we're not so concerned to get the matzah baked right away, because as long as you're working the dough, it's okay. The problem begins when you stop working the dough. Over here, where you added salt to the matzah, we're saying no. Over here, the Achronim say, if you put in a drop of salt and you baked it right away, but you didn't give it any time, ein neser b'diavad. B'diavad, we won't answer this matzah. Our salt, where most of the salt is evaporated from water, I don't know if that's even true now. He says that there are those that say that for some reason, since our salt comes from water, it doesn't have, I guess, somehow the same heating properties, and therefore you wouldn't answer it b'diavad even if you didn't bake that dough that you added a little salt to immediately. Okay, Mem Gimel, Yesh Lesar, we should answer this matzah that had salt added to it even b'diavad. V'aprichadosh Chelek, the Prichadosh disagrees with Seif, and he's of the opinion de'ein lahachmer b'diavad b'melach. There's no reason to rule so stringently if you added a drop of salt. If the salt was added somehow inadvertently, you could rely on this to be makel, to rule leniently. The chol zer linyan achila, aval linyan hana, as far as an iser hana, afilu laharama shari b'diavad. Even the Ramah, who says that b'diavad you should answer this masa that had salt added to it, would only answer it in achila. They would not answer it behana. Okay, we'll stop over here with Sivav. And I'll keep you posted. I'll let you know about the possibility of using Zoom. I think it would be very nice. I, for one, would love to see you folks. All right, everybody, be well, stay healthy, stay safe, try to stay upbeat. I know it's not easy, but it's what we got to do. We got to have emunah, we got to have bitachon, we got to trust, and we got to stay upbeat. I'll speak to you. Be well.